chilling fate of Pablo's most ruthless hitman. Pablo Escobar, one of the most notorious names in the world of organized crime and drug trafficking. But a person as powerful as him did not act alone. He had people with him all the time, although it seems that working alongside him was a curse because one by one they fell. So today, I will introduce you to the lives and stories of some of Pablo Escobar's most notorious hitmen, delving into their chilling destinies. 1. Pablo Escobar. Before we delve into the antagonists, let's talk about the protagonist. In the tricky streets of Medellín, around the late 1970s, there was a smart and ambitious man named Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. He was building a criminal empire that would totally change how drugs were moved around. The creation of the Medellín Cartel was a defining episode, marked by the formation of supposed loyalties and betrayals that would shape the destinies of those involved. Pablo Escobar began his rise in the underworld of Medellín through illicit activities such as smuggling and tomb robbery. However, his true vision emerged when he entered the cocaine trafficking business. With cunning and ruthless determination, Escobar devised a plan to consolidate power in the dark underworld of drug trafficking. One of the first to join his cause was Gustavo Gaviria Rivero, Escobar's cousin and right-hand man. Together, they navigated the intricate mazes of drug trafficking, establishing routes and international connections. As Escobar's fortune grew, so did his network of allies. OG Mes Agudelo, known as H.H., was recruited by Escobar for his ruthless nature and tactical skills. H.E., with his cleverness and cruelty, became a key commander in the cartel's military arm. His loyalty, however, was guided by the promise of wealth and power. Another key person was Carlos Rivas, who had the idea of building a landing strip on a beautiful island in the Bahamas to make it easier to move drugs. His smarts and bravery were really important for the Medellín Cartel. Over time, Escobar solidified his influence in the drug trafficking business, forming alliances with key figures like Jorge Luis Ochoa, Vázquez, and his brother Juan David. Together, they created a powerful alliance known as Los Extraditables, resisting extradition to the United States and defending their territory with ruthless violence. The Medellín Cartel became an unstoppable power machine, with Escobar as its mastermind. As dollars flowed and cocaine became a globally coveted commodity, the cartel reached its peak in the 1980s, controlling much of the drug trade in Colombia and beyond. However, internal tensions, rivalries, and external threats, such as increasing pressure from U.S. authorities, tested the strength of the Medellín Cartel. Attacks from rival groups, like the Cali Cartel, posed a constant threat. Escobar's downfall started when the Colombian government, with help from the United States, tried hard to break up the cartel. The hunt for the world's most wanted man began. On December 2, 1993, after a relentless pursuit, Pablo Escobar was located and cornered in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellín. Faced with the choice of surrendering or facing death, Escobar chose the latter. His legacy, an empire built on power and unbridled ambition, came to an end in a gunfire exchange on the roof of a modest house. Escobar's death marked the end of an era in drug trafficking, but his shadow lingers in Colombia's history. The creation of the Medellín Cartel, a conglomerate of master criminal minds, left indelible scars on Colombian society and provided a painful lesson on the dangers of unchecked greed and ruthless pursuit of power. 2. John Vázquez. Now, let's dive into these stories, starting with John Jairo Vázquez, known as Popeye, who emerged in the 1980s as one of the most infamous hitmen for the Medellín Cartel in Colombia. Born on April 15, 1962, Popeye initially worked as a hitman for the drug lord Pablo Escobar. Popeye stood out for his unwavering loyalty to Escobar and his willingness to carry out violent acts without questioning. He was involved in numerous murders ordered by Escobar, contributing to the escalation of the drug trafficking conflict in Colombia. His participation in significant events, such as the bombing of the Avianca plane in 1989 with 110 people on board, illustrates the brutality with which he operated. This attack was orchestrated by Escobar to eliminate a rival presidential candidate. As Escobar's right-hand man, Popeye became one of the most feared and sought-after criminals in the country. His loyalty to the leader of the Medellín Cartel led him to actively participate in hunting down Escobar's enemies, including government agents and members of rival cartels. His role in the organization went beyond direct violence. Popeye played a crucial role in the logistics of drug trafficking and Escobar's criminal strategy. His detailed knowledge of the inner workings of the cartel contributed to the group's operational effectiveness. Popeye's life took a surprising turn when, in 1992, Escobar was killed by Colombian authorities. Subsequently, Popeye spent time in prison, but his criminal record and involvement in heinous murders made him a polarizing figure. After serving part of his sentence, Popeye was released in 2014 and chose to stay active on social media, sparking controversy by glorifying his criminal past. This generated criticism and concerns about the possibility of him continuing to exert negative influence. His brutality and lack of remorse illustrate the ruthless nature of the drug trafficking war, leaving a legacy of violence and chaos in the history of organized crime in Latin America. 3. John Jarro. Let's keep going with the story of John Jarro Arias Tarsen, also known as Pinina, who played a dark role in the organized crime history of Colombia. Born on September 18, 1959, he became a significant hired gun connected to the Medellín Cartel during Pablo Escobar's time. Pinina, like other hitmen of the era, stood out for his ability to carry out violent acts without hesitation. His loyalty to the Medellín Cartel led him to participate in numerous murders and criminal operations, contributing to the reign of terror that marked that era. One of the most notorious events linked to Pinina was the bombing of the DAS building, Administrative Department of Security, in 1986. This attack, ordered by Escobar, aimed to weaken the security forces and destabilize the government. Pinina's involvement in such strategic actions highlighted his importance in the criminal machinery of the Medellín Cartel. His cunning and ability to execute complex operations made him a valuable asset to Escobar. As drug trafficking violence escalated in Colombia, Pinina emerged as one of the most feared hitmen. His role went beyond executing enemies of the cartel. He was also involved in drug trafficking and other illicit activities. The fall of Pablo Escobar in 1993 marked a turning point in Pinina's life. With the dismantling of the Medellín Cartel, many of its members, including Pinina, found themselves caught in a power struggle and territorial disputes among rival cartels. The post-Escobar violence resulted in a series of bloody clashes, and Pinina found himself in the midst of this chaotic transition. His loyalty to Escobar's memory led him to confront enemies seeking to consolidate their own dominance in the world of drug trafficking. Pinina's death in 1996 marked the end of his controversial criminal career. He was killed in a confrontation with the police in Medellín, signaling the end of a tumultuous era in the history of Colombian crime. Despite his death, his legacy persists as a somber reminder of the dark days of drug trafficking in the country. His role as a hitman and his involvement in key events leave an indelible mark on the history of drug trafficking in Latin America. 4. On the other hand, we have Álvaro de Jesus Agudelo, known as El Hitman, another significant figure in the history of organized crime in Colombia. Born on July 28, 1956, he stood out as a hitman in the context of drug trafficking during the 1980s and 1990s. El Hitman's criminal path was marked by his involvement in the Medellín Cartel. Like other hitmen of that time, Agudelo played a crucial role in the violence unleashed by drug trafficking, taking part in violent acts and criminal operations. The 1980s witnessed a surge in drug-related violence in Colombia, and El Hitman became one of the main players in this dark scenario. His loyalty to the Medellín Cartel led him to participate in murders and strategic attacks aimed at consolidating the power of Escobar and his organization. One of the most notorious events linked to El Hitman was his involvement in the bombing of the DAS building, Administrative Department of Security, in 1986. This attack, ordered by Escobar, aimed to weaken the security forces and destabilize the government. The fall of Pablo Escobar in 1993 triggered a series of conflicts within the world of drug trafficking, and El Lim got involved in the struggle for control of territories and drug trafficking routes. The post-Escobar violence led to bloody clashes between rival cartels, and Agudelo found himself in the midst of this turbulence. His death occurred in unpleasant circumstances, highlighting the dangerous life he led as a hitman. His role as a hitman and his involvement in key events contribute to understanding the violent dynamics that characterized that time. 5. Popeye 2. And just like any great movie has its sequel, with Popeye's legacy, it's obvious that another would come with the same name. Jaime Ruda Rocha, also known by his nickname Popeye 2, played a pivotal role in the dark legacy of the Medellín Cartel. Born on February 23, 1956, his life of crime began early when he joined the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, before deserting and becoming the leader of the gang Los Negritos. His connection with Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha, a key figure in the cartel, changed the course of his life. His notoriety reached new heights in 1989 when he was tasked with leading the first attack against General Miguel Maza M. Quezar and politician Luis Carlos Galán. Ruda Rocha, known for his coldness and aggression, was part of the operation that ended the life of presidential candidate Gail N. in a brutal assassination during a public event in Soacha on August 18, 1989. Ruda Rocha's story is marked by violence and brutality, especially during his time as the leader of the paramilitary group. After escaping from La Picota prison in September 1990, he created his own paramilitary force in the Magdalena Medio, where he committed heinous crimes such as the murder of the mayor of Puerto Boyac, Gustavo Lando, in March 1992. However, the escalating conflict between the Medellín Cartel and its adversaries, particularly the Pipis, perseguidos por Pablo Escobar, presented imminent danger. The capture and betrayal of one of Ruda Rocha's closest confidants, known as Amarillo, revealed his whereabouts and triggered a series of events that led to the final confrontation. In a surprising turn of events, Ruda Rocha was located during a raid at the La Valiente restaurant on April 23, 1992. Facing agents from the Special Operations Group, GOES of the National Police, a 30-minute shootout ensued, resulting in the death of Officer Juan Castro and the downfall of Ruda Rocha. From doing political killings to leading his own paramilitary group, his story is linked to a time of lots of violence and fights with the Colombian authorities. Even though he tried to escape justice, Popeye 2 couldn't avoid it in the end. His death not only meant the end of a violent chapter, but also showed how determined the police were to take on the most dangerous criminals. 6. H.H. You might recognize this name if you're a fan of Colombian novels. Hern da O.G. Mez Agudelo, also known as H.H., was a key figure in the military command of the infamous Medellín Cartel. His role focused on the operational aspects, extending to finances and control of the luxurious Hacienda Enpoles built by Pablo Escobar from the early years of the 1980s. H.H.'s connection with Escobar dates back to 1979 when he attended the wedding anniversary party of Pablo and Ma Victoria Janeo Vallejo, who had prior connections with the family. This encounter quickly established H.H. as a member of Escobar's inner circle, becoming one of his most reliable lieutenants. Known for his involvement in the Medellín Cartel's laboratory in Magdalena Medio, H.H. oversaw atrocious actions under Escobar's direction. Enrique Liras, a former Minister of Justice and a fierce pursuer of measures against the cartel, was ordered to be killed by H.H. and Escobar in 1991. This crime added to the list of violent acts carried out under H.H.'s supervision, including the murder of the mayor of Puerto Boyac, Gustavo Lando, in March 1992. H.H.'s capture occurred on two occasions. The first was on April 17, 1987 in Puerto Triunfo, where he was arrested carrying a fake ID. However, surprisingly, he was released on June 8, 1987, allegedly bribed with a sum of $5,000. He was considered an inconsequential detainee with no connection to Avianca 8245. The second time they caught He was on July 7, 1990, at Hacienda N. Pols. Even though Escobar and his top people got away, they nabbed HH and some others. But on July 25, 1990, HH got out again because of bribes arranged by Daniel Montero Carvajal, also known as Danielito, to some corrupt authorities. Once he was free, HH became an important person again in the cartel's activities. He kept his influence and power despite pressure from groups against the cartel, like the Pipis. In 1992, when the Pipis came into the picture, things got even more dangerous for the cartel. In 1993, the Pipis kidnapped a guy named Amarillo, who disclosed the whereabouts of Morillo, a trusted confidant of HH. This information was crucial as it allowed authorities to close in on HH. Finally, the dark reign of HH came to an end when he was located during a raid planned by the Search Block, a specialized Colombian group dedicated to capturing Escobar and dismantling the cartel. HA got caught after a night of partying at the La Variante restaurant on April 23, 1992. Confronted by the police intervention, HH and his bodyguards responded with gunfire, triggering a 30-minute shootout. In the midst of this fierce exchange, police officer Juan Castro lost his life. Attempting to escape by jumping a fence into a field, HA received a fatal gunshot wound. The time when Herndar O.E.G. Mes Agudelo got caught marked the end of a chapter in the Medellín Cartel. His influence and role in doing bad things are now part of Colombia's history. Certainly, none of these stories have happy endings. Those who chose this path probably knew it would end badly sooner or later, right? If they didn't meet a bullet, they likely faced a slow death behind bars. Somehow, it seems like karma caught up with each of them for what they did. Even though they were associated with a big name in the drug world, it didn't save them, just like him. What's weird is that despite being criminals with blood on their hands, there were people who praised and admired them. Maybe this could be a topic for another video.